Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope we're having a wonderful start to the week out there. And we've got a very impactful week ahead here in the weather department. Now, we are currently in a little bit of a lull, and the next couple of days should stay pretty nice. But by the time we get into that Wednesday, Thursday time frame, a big time storm system on the horizon, starting out west and eventually working east, where it could bring with it some winter weather chances to portions of the southeast, going very late into this weekend into early next week. Now, obviously, parts of the storm are still quite a ways away, but other parts, including, again, those impacts out west, are really only about 72 to 84 hours out. So we can really start discussing those in today's video. Now, I do want to thank you. Yesterday's video did very well, and I kind of figured it would as the pattern starts picking back up. And if any of you happen to be new, definitely welcome aboard. And if you're a returning viewer, thanks again. That means the world to me. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. We are trying to get to 10,000 here, and we're getting relatively close, closer and closer every day here, which is super exciting. And I'm hoping to get there by the end of February. I think it's very doable, especially with this pattern upcoming. Now, also like the video if you like it. Comment, let me know where you're watching from and what you're seeing out there. Consider sharing it with somebody that you think might find the video useful, again, as we're kind of preparing for this very busy 7 to 10 days here of weather. Alrighty, with that said, let's go ahead and jump on into it because, again, it is a very active pattern, so we definitely need to use as much time as possible here to discuss it. Now, currently over the continental United States, things again are relatively quiet. We have a kind of storm on each coast. We've got one moving off the east coast. That's left over from what brought snow yesterday. And then we've got another storm kind of here off the west coast. If you can see that up there, obviously probably pretty easy to see with all the bright colors. But that one also, again, just far enough offshore that impacts are staying mostly offshore. Now, some of that rain is clipping the coast of Washington here. But overall speaking, again, we're kind of sandwiched in between this nice ridge with bad weather on each coast, but pretty good everywhere in between. Now, you can also see that on radar imagery. Past couple of days, we've had a very active radar at the start of the video. Today, a little bit different, much more quiet and much nicer for, many folks here. Now, we do have some leftover snow showers up into portions of Maine here and down into sections of New England there off the coast of Long Island and into Connecticut and Rhode Island. We also still have some northwest flow snow showers getting into the mountains of North Carolina, West Virginia, and Virginia here. But outside of that, precipitation really quiet over much of the country. And then also, as I mentioned up here in the top left of your screen, that storm system just barely scraping the coast of Washington here, but really not bringing too many direct impacts. All right, let's start off by talking about what's left of this winter weather up into the northeast. And again, I think that's a pretty good place to start in today's video. And then we'll kind of talk about the west coast a little bit. And then we'll talk about this clipper system that's on the way for many folks here going into the next couple of days. And then we'll round out the video, obviously, by talking about that big time storm system on the horizon. All right, so again, in the northeast today, right now we do have some scattered snow showers still working on through, as I mentioned here, kind of just on the coast of Maine, as well as down here through Long Island, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, seeing a couple snow showers throughout the day today. Now, as we go into this afternoon, one more piece of energy might try to move on through, and we could get a quick burst of snow here down into southeastern Massachusetts near the Cape, including Nantucket here. Not out of the question to see a quick burst of snow. Accumulations here won't be anything crazy, but definitely enough it'll be worth watching here. And again, that could last for a while into this evening, even into the time the sun is going down. And you'll notice that's still holding on here into the 7 to 8 o'clock hour here, again, right onto the Cape, with even a couple scattered snow showers here back west into western Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Hampshire. Again, could see a couple more snow showers today before I think overnight tonight we finally clear out and much nicer conditions in the northeast. And then you'll see back towards Michigan, there's that clipper system, which should start working in really as soon as overnight tonight and tomorrow morning. And again, we'll discuss that here in just a moment. Now, snowfall totals left to come today, really not that much, but a dusting to an inch here along the Maine coastline and down into southeastern Massachusetts. In fact, I even think kind of the Cape down here could pick up maybe an inch. Isolated spots could see 2 inches, not out of the question. But again, not too much more expected today as the storm system is again continuing to pull away and impacts really limited from here on out. All right, let's also discuss that clipper system here. I'm going to refresh the page here and give me a second to just run it all the way through just so we are up to date, and then we'll go ahead and back this back up. All right, so this is about 6, 7 o'clock tonight. So around the time the sun is setting, again, you'll notice we've got nicer conditions overall. But here comes this Alberta Clipper out of Canada, swinging on through, moving, starting really through Wisconsin and Michigan. So I think overnight tonight, again, this is 7 p.m., going into 8, 9, 10, and eventually into the midnight hours. Snow likely overspreading much of northern Michigan here, with potentially rain here into Wisconsin. Again, we've had very above average temperatures, so we could be fighting some warm air here. But I definitely think kind of on the eastern side of the storm system where we have enough cold air left over from that high pressure that we could definitely see a quick burst of snow. Now you'll notice that moves on through kind of overnight tonight. By the time we're waking up tomorrow, we've got a pretty healthy band of snow from extreme northern Indiana here into the heart of Michigan, seeing some snow out of this. And that continues into later tomorrow afternoon. And again, just a good old-fashioned clipper system. A quick burst of a couple of hours of snow. Again, starting tomorrow morning. This getting into about the noon hour of tomorrow afternoon. Now working through Detroit. Sections here of western Ohio, likely seeing some snow out of this, maybe down even into the Cincinnati area, seeing some snow, and even potentially down towards Louisville. Now, as we go later on into tomorrow afternoon, this clipper system is going to slowly work into an air mass that is much warmer than where it's going to start. And you'll notice by the time we're getting into tomorrow evening, instead of snow, we've got rain showers here into sections of eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, even sections of West Virginia and southwestern Virginia, getting in on some rain showers before eventually this runs into the mountains of North Carolina. Again, overnight Tuesday, this is about 11 o'clock midnight, where we've got enough cold air once again that we're going to get some mountain snow out of this here through the higher terrains of Tennessee, North Carolina, and into southwestern Virginia, with just some light rain showers into North Georgia, East Tennessee, back down towards Birmingham, Greenville, Spartanburg, and even Asheville, likely just seeing some rain showers out of this. Now, as I move this further ahead into the time that we are waking up on Wednesday morning at this point, you'll notice, again, just some rain showers here along the I-20 corridor from Florence, Columbia, Augusta, back towards Atlanta. Charlotte likely seeing some rain showers out of this Wednesday morning back through Raleigh, but still holding on to some light snow here into sections of southwest Virginia and the mountains of northern North Carolina. And this is as far out as this model goes, but likely going through the rest of Wednesday afternoon. This will just lead to a couple more rain showers into the eastern Carolinas and maybe a couple snow flurries trying to mix into Virginia, but impact should be pretty limited at that point. All right, snowfall out of this clipper system. Again, not too much to write home about, but I think the real winner's likely here into northern and northeastern Michigan here. Could see a quick burst of a couple of inches, 1 to 3 inches, but most folks a dusting to an inch here through sections of eastern Indiana, much of Ohio, and into the heart of Michigan. So again, impact's not off the charts, but enough to mention here. And then once again, that snow kind of continuing to work south and east here over the Wednesday time frame, and this is where we will see our big winners down through West Virginia and the higher terrains of North Carolina, where again a couple of inches of snow could fall, probably 1 to 3 inches in the higher terrains of West Virginia, and same story down here into the higher terrains of North Carolina. So again, not a blockbuster storm. In fact, we just saw a bunch of northwest flow snow, so this really probably won't surprise you all that much, considering we've been in a bit of a snowy frenzy here over the past couple of days. But again, important enough that we need to mention and talk about it. All right, now let's discuss temperatures over the East Coast a little bit over the next kind of 2 to 3 days. This is this afternoon. Again, a chilly day for most folks, but also pretty average January day. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Most of us getting right about freezing here into the Ohio River Valley, up into Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. Warmer temperatures down into the Carolinas where we could see 50s. And then kind of, again, hovering at or below freezing through much of the Northeast this afternoon. And then warmer temperatures back into Texas, I will mention, as we're getting a little bit more of that southerly flow into that ridge. So a nice day up in the 60s if you're watching back towards Texas and Oklahoma. Now, low temperatures tonight, again, it's going to be chilly. Most of us getting at or near freezing, indicated by those blue colors. But again, I don't want to talk too much about this. Just kind of find your location on the map here, and you'll get a good idea of what your low temperature tonight is. All right, and then going into our Tuesday afternoon, again, you'll notice overall a bit of a warming trend, especially back out into the southwestern part of your map. Again, that big ridge that is over the country continuing to bring north kind of that warmer air here. And again, we're getting back into the 60s and even kissing 70 here through much of Louisiana and Texas for our Tuesday afternoon, and 50s even getting up into Kansas, with cooler temperatures still holding on into the Ohio River Valley through much of our Tuesday afternoon. Now, overnight Tuesday into our Wednesday morning here, again, pretty similar to the night before. Again, find your location on the map, but a relatively chilly night, maybe a little bit above average compared to what we're used to this time of year. And then going into our Wednesday afternoon, again, a tad bit colder here Wednesday as that Clipper system works on through. Going to kind of bring in a little bit of colder air here, kind of into sections of the southeast and the Tennessee and Ohio River Valley. So again, I think Wednesday will be a tad bit colder. And that could really set the stage for maybe more cold air later on in the week. That will be very important to our next storm system. All right, now let's discuss the West Coast a little bit. And again, I'm going to kind of have to move this ahead a little bit just to load all of the maps. But again, this afternoon, relatively nice out here. You'll notice not really much precipitation. That storm system just off the coast, kind of just clipping us here. And could see a little bit of rain up into extreme western Washington state here overnight tonight. Not out of the question and into tomorrow morning. But again, overall speaking, waking up tomorrow, we've still got relatively nice conditions with most of that storm system staying off the West Coast. And that stays pretty consistent before Tuesday afternoon. That storm system kind of begins to scrape the coast a little bit more here. You'll notice some rain working into the coastline of Oregon and Washington, but inland still mainly dry. And that's going to become a pretty common theme even into overnight Tuesday. And by the time we're waking up Wednesday, here's our next storm system knocking on the door and getting ready to bring much more widespread impacts compared to kind of what we're seeing right now. Now, temperatures out here, again, this afternoon, it's going to be nice. Temperatures up into the 60s and 70s down through Southern California and Arizona. Elsewhere, again, a pretty average January day, and that continues into overnight tonight. Again, a pretty average, January night. Again, just find where you're at on the map for your temperature. Before eventually we get into our Tuesday afternoon and we get a much nicer warm-up, even warmer than what we're going to see today ahead of that next storm system. And then going into overnight Tuesday, again, a bit of a chilly start to the day, but for some folks, still nice. All right, now that we've talked about kind of the next 3 days or so, let's discuss this next storm system. Obviously, it's what a lot of people have on their mind, and for good reason, because this is going to bring pretty large impacts with it. So I'm going to go ahead and back this map up just a little bit. This is going into Wednesday morning, and you'll notice a pretty similar pattern to what we've seen recently, a big ridge right over the center of the country. But what's differing this time is we've got a little bit of a trough in the southeast. This is that Clipper system I was talking about. Again, likely to bring a little bit of colder air with it, as I mentioned. And then off the west coast, we've got a very large storm here that is going to get slowly closer towards the western half of the country. Now, as we move this a little bit further ahead into time, this is going into our Friday morning and afternoon. Here's that big storm now kind of working through much of the western half of the country, bringing cooler temperatures and much stormier weather, including big-time rain with a flooding potential, as well as big-time mountain snow, which really could pile up to maybe even feet of snow by the time this storm is over. Now, at the same time, we do have another trough kind of now digging down into the northeast. This is that 50-50 low we've been talking about. And again, the naming scheme isn't important. Just know this is important to trying to get cold air into the southeast ahead of this next coming storm system. Excuse me. So that is something that's going to be very important. Now, one thing I will say overnight in the models that has shifted a little bit is the placement of this 50-50 low is a little more unfavorable than maybe we would want to see for snow into sections like the Carolinas and Georgia and Virginia, but it is still here showing up on the map. And the reason it's so important is we've got, let me kind of pick a different color that might be a little bit easier to see here. That's not going to work. Maybe white might show up. Kind of, yeah, sure, good enough. So we've got high pressure, again, this big ridge over kind of the center of the country. We've got this 50-50 low here, and if I just draw the arrows around kind of how these two move, you'll notice they both kind of are going to work in tandem to funnel down colder air into the Appalachia chain and kind of down the backside and help to bring a little bit of cold air damming. Now, ideally, you would want this 50-50 low to be a little bit closer towards the shoreline, and you'd want this ridge to be a little bit further offshore as well. But again, the pattern isn't horrible. It's still there for the potential of kind of funneling in that cold air ahead of this big-time storm system. And as I time this ahead a little bit further, that's Friday afternoon you're seeing here. We bring this into Saturday afternoon. That big storm now dives down southward into the south central plains, again taking a very favorable track for southern snow. And that 50-50 low continuing to stay in its place and trying to funnel in cooler air here. Now, as I bring this further ahead into time, going into our Sunday afternoon here, again, this is the 4th of February. That storm system still taking a very favorable track and eventually, gets into kind of the money zone, if you will, here going into next Monday afternoon. And this is whenever we could be seeing any potential winter weather through the southeast part of the country. Right now, the one thing I feel confident in is Storm Track. The Storm Track looks very good. A lot of our ensembles continue to bring this right across the Gulf Coast, which is exactly where you want to see it for southern snow. The thing that we're kind of lacking a little bit, though, here is a cold air advection. Again, you'll notice here, look at kind of how the isobars are behaving here. They're kind of kinking a little bit here, indicating, again, that we're trying to funnel in that cold air here. Just the question is, how strong is that funnel of cold air going to be? Now, oftentimes, models kind of underdo this cold air a little bit, so temperatures might be a little bit colder than what the models are showing here. But again, we want to see a little bit more of that cold air kind of getting pushed on in, and we've got time to do it. Again, this is 180 hours out from now, so we're going to see trends go back and forth. We're going to see a little bit of a windshield wiper effect, but what is important is we do still have this storm signal here with a very favorable track and that cold air not far behind. So that's definitely something that we can look forward to. All right, now talking about the storm system itself here on our vorticity mapper, and again, this just kind of shows spin in the atmosphere, which helps us find low pressure and high pressure. And this is going into kind of overnight tomorrow into Wednesday. This is our big clipper system that I talked about. You'll notice kind of that bowling ball in the east on the map. That kind of works on through, and eventually, here we go into that Thursday time frame. Here's that big storm system out west, and here is that kind of trough of colder air working on through the northeast. So this kind of, let me, again, trying to find a color that works a little bit better here if I can. This might do the job. Yeah, that shows up pretty good. So up in the northeast, again, this is a trough that we have. You'll notice that kind of by this, trough axis here, or just kind of an extension of low pressure on your map. That, again, is going to be what helps us kind of funnel in that cold air. Out west, we've got another trough. This, though, is bringing that storm system. Now, as I move this a little bit further ahead into time, and I should also add, this is our European model from overnight tonight, if you are curious. But here we go. Friday afternoon, again, here's that trough. It is swinging on through. It's helping to bring a little bit of colder air. You'll notice definitely extending down into the mid-Atlantic and portions of the Carolinas. And at the same time, we've just got a big mess of energy back into the desert southwest, slowly trying to get its act together and get a little bit closer towards the southeast. Now here we go, Saturday afternoon, that storm system becomes a little bit more prominent now into the south central plains, and by the time we're getting into, Sunday and Monday, we've got a very well-defined storm here on our map. Almost looks like an eyeball looking at you. Now again, this storm track is very favorable for, winter weather. The one thing that we need a little bit better, again, is look at this trough of cold air. It's a little bit far northeast. You want to kind of see this pull south and west a little bit to kind of get a little bit closer to that storm system, and ideally you want the two to hook up. And our European model does do that just a little bit late here. You'll notice here comes that cold air now wrapping into the storm and, kind of helping to bring the two together. Now, if we can get that to happen a little bit sooner, then we'll definitely be in business for some winter weather. But right now, we still have a lot of details to kind of iron out here. All right, let me show you what this storm could look like on radar imagery. I'm going to start out west because obviously that's where the impacts will start, and then we'll eventually work our way east here. And here we go. This is Wednesday morning out west. Here comes that big storm system lashing the coastline here with very heavy rain through Northern California, Oregon, Washington. Eventually into Wednesday afternoon, very heavy mountain snow picking up in the Sierra Nevadas, very heavy rainfall back towards the Bay Area, and raining up and down the west coast. Now, by the time we get into Thursday afternoon, this is likely going to be the peak of this storm, if you will, and look at just how heavy this mountain snow is. From Oregon down through the Sierra Nevadas into California, very, again, kind of heavy mountain snow here, very heavy coastal rainfall at the same time. Winds will likely be picking up as well here. And eventually bringing this into Friday afternoon, all of this precipitation works further into the Rockies. We've got mountain snow through Utah, down through the Four Corners, Nevada, up into Idaho, seeing mountain snow Friday afternoon, and valley rain here. And that general idea continues into Saturday afternoon before eventually our storm system kind of, finally makes its way down into the southern plains. And this is when we could be dealing with a big-time snowstorm through sections of Colorado. Maybe the Denver area could see some snow. The Four Corners likely still picking up on snow. And at the same time here, getting a little bit of a lull back west before, spoiler alert, another storm system likely early the next week works on through. And once again, we're right back to mountain snow and coastal rainfall about a week out from now. Now, how much snow are we talking? Well, this is our European ensemble members from overnight. You'll notice a big kind of pasting here of snowfall through the higher terrains. So this goes all the way out till next Sunday morning here. And again, you'll just notice widespread mountain snow going to be likely and pretty easy to come by here. And moving this into the desert southwest, also easy to come by here through California. Again, the Sierra Nevada is likely going to be the biggest winners out of this, where we could be counting snowfall totals in the feet range. You'll notice here some of these higher terrains, 24 inches of snow. Some spots maybe even more than that. Up here into Northern California, we're counting about 40 inches of snow in isolated spots there. So a lot of snow on the way, definitely for the mountains out here. Now, snow will not be the only concern here. Rainfall also going to be something we need to watch here, especially into the coastline. And here we go, taking a look at it. Actually, I might be able to make this a little bit easier to see here. Again, this is rainfall. So 7-day precipitation here through the west coast. Again, especially right along the coastline, we could be seeing a big, heavy helping of rainfall. And even further inland into areas of Montana, Idaho, eastern Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Utah could see some rain out of this as well. And eventually down into California, the biggest winners in the rainfall department, or losers, I guess, if you're not a fan of the rain, is going to be here into Northern California. Some of these totals here, again, getting up near half a foot of rainfall, not out of the question as this atmospheric river really cranks up, and that will continue to work on even into southern sections of California. So LA, San Diego, San Francisco, and even up the coastline, everyone's going to get on the rain with this storm. It will not just be kind of one area. Alrighty, so that is kind of that. Now let's talk about the East Coast a little bit. Obviously, a lot of people watching from the East, curious what the storm is going to mean for them. And let's pick up here on Friday afternoon. This is the GFS model, and then I'll show you the European model. And then we'll kind of, discuss the differences and take a look at ensembles, and then I will let you go here. All right, so here we go. Again, going into afternoon Friday and now into Saturday morning, here we go. That storm system now ejecting into the plains and forming a very well-defined center of low pressure here. 994 millibars showing up here Saturday morning. This likely bringing big-time mountain snow through Colorado and potentially even some thunderstorms and maybe severe thunderstorms, not out of the question here, through sections of Texas and Oklahoma. Now, as I bring this further ahead into time, you'll notice the low pressure continues to strengthen and kind of spin away here, now pushing precipitation further eastbound. This is going into Sunday morning here. And here we are. Again, this is the 4th of February, Sunday morning. We've got low pressure here over Texas, and I'll mention this is kind of an elongated low pressure. So this is not a kind of one small compact storm. This is just a big area of energy through the Gulf Coast, kind of bringing wave after wave of precipitation. And at the same time, here's that 50-50 low. And notice this blue line. This blue line is generally the rain-snow line. Now, not all the time. It's not perfect. But that's kind of where we have air that is cold enough for snow. And you'll notice it's not far. It's getting down here into Virginia, but not quite down far, enough into the Carolinas to see snowfall. Now, as I move this into Sunday afternoon, that precipitation moves a little bit closer. And even into overnight Sunday, we've got a big rainstorm through much of the southeast. You'll notice not much snow showing up here. But if I move this just a little bit further ahead into Monday morning and I take a sounding here just to kind of get an idea of what does the atmosphere look like. Obviously, you're seeing all rain on the map here, but if I click on a place like Charlotte, for example, here, you'll notice temperatures here at the surface. We've got a temperature of 35 degrees and a dew point of 32 degrees. Now, what does that mean? Well, obviously, that is going to fall as rain, especially with a very strong warm nose here, but it's not far from what we need to see for some sort of snow here. And if I click even further up into a place like Raleigh here on Monday morning, you'll notice even a nicer profile here. We've got a temperature of 33 degrees and a dew point of 21. Likely, if you were to saturate this column, we'd be cold enough for some sort of wintry precipitation here. So I know this doesn't look very promising. You're seeing all rain on this map, and you're thinking, well, what kind of storm is he talking about? This looks like just a big all rainstorm. Well, yes, but operational runs are not the entire story here. It's good to look at how close we are to getting snowfall, and then we'll take a look at the ensembles here as well in a moment. But you'll notice going into Monday afternoon, this precipitation is still hanging around, still spinning away, still bringing rainfall, even mountain snow on the GFS here through North Carolina. And this storm continuing to just crank away and spin away off the southeast coastline, even getting into February 6th here. And you'll notice here going into the following, the 6th here that morning, we've even got a little bit of blue. I know it's hard to see, but a little bit of blue showing up here into kind of part of the storm. All right, now that's something we'll have to watch. Again, temperatures are very close here to winter weather. And again, if I just take another sounding in Columbia, for example, here next Tuesday morning, this is about as close as you can get. We've got temperatures at about 35 degrees, and air very very cold just above the surface here. Getting below freezing, and then that warm nose. But either way, these soundings are very close to winter weather, I guess is the point I'm trying to drive home here. And as I move this all the way out ahead in time, eventually the storm system pulls away. Going into about next Wednesday. Now that's the GFS, the European model. What are we seeing here? Well, starts the same here. Storm kind of gets developing here Saturday and Sunday over kind of the Texas and Oklahoma area, bringing big time mountain snow and rain elsewhere. And kind of does the same thing. Sunday afternoon here, we've got a big low pressure spinning away over the southeastern part of the country. And again, it's showing up as just rain here. Now, if I do the same thing here, I bring this into Monday morning and I take a sounding here again over a place like Charlotte. And we take a look at it. Again, it's kind of similar to the GFS. We've got a dew point of about 30 and a temperature of about 37. So we're not far from winter weather here, definitely not by any means. And you'll notice that 50-50 low in that cold air is even closer on the European model here than it was on the GFS. So again, I know these operational runs do not look very promising, but you got to kind of hang in there. We got to get a little bit closer. We have to watch the trends, and also watching the ensembles of this range are very important. Now, eventually, one thing you'll notice that the European model does do is it kind of connects the two pieces of energy, and eventually here on the backside, you kind of get to that connection there, but it's just a little too late, and you'll notice those blue isobars in that cold air funnel in behind just a little too far off the coastline. So again, neither one of the operational runs showing big-time snow, but if we take a look at the ensembles, we still do have a signal here. If we look at the European ensembles, again, you'll notice a bullseye here over kind of the Carolinas and North Carolina, with a lot of areas getting into about that 20% range of at least an inch of snow falling. And again, I still think it's a very real possibility. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. But just know that the chance is still there on the table. And the GFS ensemble shows a bullseye kind of right over the same area here, although a little bit lower chances. Now, one thing I will also show you, because I know a lot of people like doing this, now don't take this for verbatim though, I will start by saying that, but if we look at the 10-to-1 ratio of total snowfall, or the mean of all the ensembles as well, you'll notice this signal here is a little bit stronger. You're seeing a big area here, especially in North Carolina, I'll mention, not so much South Carolina, but definitely North Carolina, a big area of snowfall. Now, if we only have the chances here about 20% on the GFS, and you're getting a 2-inch mean, that means that we're borderline to a big-time storm. Some of the ensemble members are showing very big-time snow totals, which is kind of driving up these, overall totals on the mean here. But again, that's why I like showing the percent chance a little bit more than the total snowfall. But again, just know the signal is there. Don't lose hope. We've got a little bit of ways to go here. All right. Again, a little bit of a longer video here, about 27 to 28 minutes, but I do appreciate y'all hanging in there and watching the whole thing. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I'll try my best to get around to answering those. I do have a little bit of a busy day here in the homework department, and also have to go to class here, obviously, pretty soon. But I do appreciate y'all watching. Hope you have a great rest of your Monday it is, and I'll see you all tomorrow.